Good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are in Australia, New Zealand. Thanks for joining. My name is Chris Betcher, and I'm joined by Steve Smith here. We're going to take you through this afternoon our Learn with Google 2022 session for March. It is March, isn't it? Yes, it is. We're calling this one Safe and Secure with Chromebooks and Google Workspace. We're going to talk about some Chromebook stuff, and we've got some new Google stuff to show you as well. So thanks for joining. I think I can move to the next slide. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we're meeting, at least here in Australia, whose cultures and customs have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. And we honour the presence of the ancestors who reside in the imagination of this land. And those lovely images you can see there, they were commissioned by Google by a bunch of Aboriginal artists, and they represent all the different, or some of the many different lands around Australia. I'm going to hand over to Steve for New Zealand.
Kia ora whanau, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa, kia papatua nuku tēnā koe, ki te whare tēnā koe, ki te tupuna tēnā koe, tēnā koutou katoa ti hei mauri ora. So welcome to you all, wherever you are. So welcome to the land you stand on, to the house you sit in, and to your ancestors who went before you to allow you to be in this place. So we'd like to also acknowledge ngā iwi Māori as the tangata whenua of Aotearoa, and we're committed to upholding the principles and partnerships of Te Tiriti. So welcome in today.
Excellent. Good on you. Thanks, Steve. And just, we do this every month just so you get familiar with our faces. That's the team, the education team here in Australia and New Zealand, mostly Australia. Steve's kind of looking after New Zealand all on his own there. But we do work as a team. And today you have myself, Chris Betcher, and Steve Smith from Auckland. Kimberly may drop in and visit us later on. She's just caught up with something at the moment. And we'll see how we go. So today we're going to talk about a lot of Chromebook stuff. Some of which we've talked about before, perhaps, but not everyone comes to every session, so it might be new to you. Before we do, just recognise that the fact that Google produces this suite of tools called Workspace, which does a whole bunch of cool stuff. But on top of that, we have a platform of hardware that it runs on called Chromebooks. The beautiful thing about Chromebooks, hands up, wave at me if you use a Chromebook or your kids use Chromebooks. Quite a few people, fantastic. So as you would probably know, then they're lightweight, durable. They're designed for students, and they boot up in 10 seconds. The battery lasts all day, and the idea is they're designed to be simple, affordable, secure, and shareable. And I think they do that really well. So
hey, Chris, a really nice little fact about Chromebooks is our CEO Sundar actually worked on the Chromebook team way back when the Chromebooks were first being released.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We definitely, and some people ask us, I was at an industry function not so long ago, and someone sidled up to me from another tech company and said, so you guys don't really use Chromebooks like within Google, do you? It's like, absolutely. I can 100% guarantee you we all work on Chromebooks here at Google. Like we're not making this up. We're not expecting kids to use it, no one else. Google runs on Chromebooks. We run on Workspace. It's very much the way it works here. The idea with all of these solutions, be they hardware or software, we want them to be easy to use. We want them to be flexible and scalable so you can do all sorts of stuff with them. We don't want to tell you what you should do with our tools. We want them to be flexible enough that you can do whatever you want with them. Most importantly, they're built for collaboration, and they have been from day one. And I know, some of our competitors now are discovering how important collaboration is and everything, but it's been from day one in the stuff that we're doing, and I think we do it pretty well. And the other thing about the stuff we try and build at Google is it's secure by design. In other words, we don't just build systems and then afterwards go, oh, maybe we should think about how to make this secure. We start with security as the first principle. In fact, Steve, I think we have a competition, don't we, where if you can hack a Chromebook, the prize is, was it last time I heard, it was like $500,000 or something?
It's a huge amount. It's been going up for a long time, and it's never happened yet. Even the hackers at Manaiakalani can't break them. So they can break them, but they can't break into them. So look, if you got students who want to try and hack a Chromebook, tell them to go for it, because I'm not even going to touch wood. I'm going to say it hasn't happened yet. So it's been going for so long that people have always given up, and that's because we have a special little chip inside our Chromebooks that encrypts everything in the Chromebook and then unencrypts it at the other end as well. So built by design, as Chris said.
Yeah. So we get a lot of questions about Chromebooks, and we may be somewhat preaching to the converted today, because I know a lot of people said that you guys use Chromebooks. But for the rest of the world who hasn't really cottoned on to Chromebooks yet, We get a lot of questions all the time, and these are some of the questions we kind of get. And I don't know if you have a look through that list. Maybe you asked some of these questions at some point? Maybe these are things you wondered about. But people ask, well, isn't the Chromebook just a web browser? Like, can I really do anything else with it? What do I need an antivirus? Why don't I need an antivirus? Where's the caps lock key? That's the other common question we get. And so there's lots of conceptions and misconceptions about Chromebooks. And so, I'd like to dispel some of those today, hopefully. So there's a list. We're going to go through some stuff, and at the end of the stuff we'll go through, we'll put that list up again, and we'll see how many of these questions we've answered, if that sounds okay with you guys. Steve, I don't have visibility on the chat right now.
Yeah,
so
I've got that, mate. You're good. Yeah. So I can have a good chat. And as I said, look, if you, Adrienne asked a really great question. What's the average price? It's really hard to tell. I mean, we do have some really cheap Chromebooks around at the moment for $240 odd, all the way up to $2,500 Chromebooks that are kind of 17-inch foldable aluminium, beautiful pieces of machinery. So all sorts of different prices, but I know a lot of schools do love our Chromebooks because there is that budget option, moving right the way up through those more expensive ones for teachers as well. So, if you've got a question, folks, just whack in the chat, and I'll answer it if I can. If I can't, I'll fire it across to my learned colleague, Chris.
In fact, it's interesting you asked that, Adriana, because Chromebooks had a reputation, and probably still do have a reputation for being, quote, cheap. We like to use the term affordable, not cheap, but it's very much a matter of people think, well, if I want something inexpensive, like a Chromebook's a good option. And it is, but it's like everything in life. You get what you pay for, right? And so if you buy an inexpensive Chromebook, you'll get a good Chromebook, but it's an inexpensive Chromebook. And there are clearly, more upmarket ones if you want to go there. The thing is, a couple of years ago, Google released a reference machine called a Pixel. And it was an aluminium bodied, beautiful touchscreen. It was very advanced for its time. And they charged $1,000 for it. And I bought one at the time. And I remember having all this buyer's regret, thinking, I just paid $1,000 for a Chromebook. What am I thinking? And I stopped and thought about it afterwards, and I went, in hindsight, using it, it was actually, and I don't have it anymore, but at the time, it was the best computer I'd ever owned. And I'd had Macs and all sorts of things. It was the one I enjoyed working on the most, which I think counts for a lot. But the other thing about it, it was $1,000. But the next closest Mac I could have bought was like $2,000. So, I think you've got to put it in perspective about what you get for your money.
And I think that is that, as you said, we've designed it to work with our software, and our software is designed to be really lightweight. Therefore, we don't need to have, a super, super grunty machine because everything runs in the cloud. So if you know software as a service, that's how it's designed. It doesn't have to run on the computer. It runs up in the magic cloud somewhere. Yeah,
exactly right. So these are some of the things we're going to cover today. We'll look at sort of some of the ways you can find your way around a Chromebook, how you manage them. We'll touch on a couple of those things. We'll look at where you get the apps from, and we'll talk about some apps a little bit. And then, there's a bunch of stuff we'll talk about. So the Chromebook keyboard, if you've ever used a Chromebook, or if you've never used a Chromebook and you come to one for the first time and you look at the keyboard, you go, oh, there's a few things here I don't recognize. So you've got some buttons along the top there that you probably do recognize, because a lot of computers have those for changing the brightness and whatnot. But then you've got these buttons over on the other side that kind of, what are they about? Well, it's because a Chromebook is designed to be, it was built for the web. And so things like the back button and the forward button and the refresh button, which you'd normally have in your browser, it's right there as a physical button on the device because it's built for the web. Then you've got these other two little buttons there. One is to go full screen. The one on the left, the yellow one, there's a full screen button. And I think a lot of people overlook that button. But when you press full screen, the toolbars across the top on the tabs and everything, and the toolbar at the bottom, they just go away. So if you've got a student working on an inexpensive, affordable Chromebook, right, that has a slightly smaller screen, and typically it'd be like an 11 or 12-inch screen, when you press that full screen button, you get the equivalent of like a 13-inch screen. So you actually get quite a bit more screen real estate by going full screen. And it's just a matter of pressing it to come in and out of that full screen mode. So it's really handy. And the other button next to it is all your open windows, it scatters them all over the screen. On the Mac, I think that's called Expose. I don't know what we call it here. It just puts your windows all over the screen. Same kind of thing. And then you can jump from window to window really quickly. That button there, the blue button, probably the most important button on a Chromebook, in my opinion, it's the search button. And well, we'll talk about this later and give you a couple of examples of how it works, but the search button lets you search not just your Chromebook, but your Google Drive, all your files on the machine, the web in general. So if you're looking for something, that's the first button you should go to. And then you can search everything everywhere. In fact, its nickname is the everything button. A true story. And you might notice that that's where the caps lock button would normally be, which is why people ask that question, where's the caps lock button? Right? We'll talk about that in a sec as well. And then, of course, you've got your usual modifier keys down the bottom, Shift, Control, and Alt. And when you press those keys in concert with the other keys, you can get it to do a whole bunch of things. So a lot of keyboard shortcuts. Two little pro tips for you. If you want the caps lock button, so if typing away and I hear part of my sentence coming up here has a whole bunch of capital letters I need to type, and you don't want to hold down Shift to do it, if you press Alt and the search key, in other words, the key where the caps lock normally would be, right? Just press Alt, search, and it switches to being a caps lock temporarily, and then you press Alt, search, and it switches back out of being a caps lock afterwards. So, you definitely got a cap. I had a school come to me and say, I like Chromebooks, but I won't buy them because they don't have a caps lock key. They actually do, right? Just got to turn it on. And the other pro tip, you've got a backspace button, which eliminates the character to the left. But if you want to eliminate the character to the right, like a delete key, just hold down the search key while you do backspace, and you'll get the same effect. Okay, so a couple of things there. Trackpad gestures. I worked in a school for a long time, and a kid came up to me one day and said, Sir, I've discovered that if I want to get like the right-click menu, I can just touch the trackpad with 2 fingers. And my reaction was, well, isn't that obvious? And apparently it's not obvious to everyone. So, and it might not have been obvious to you. I don't know. So if you touch the trackpad with 2 fingers, that's the equivalent of a right click, right? Because if you come from Windows land where you have a right button and a left button, right, and you come to a Chromebook or a Mac for that matter, and there's no buttons, you kind of go, how do I do a right click? Tap with 2 fingers. If you scroll with 2 fingers, that's the equivalent of scrolling the page up and down, right? Don't go hunting around with your mouse and try and grab the little scroll bar down the side, and that's a slow way to do anything, right? Just drag with 2 fingers. If you use the 3-finger drag, that will go into that expose mode that I talked about, where it exposes all the windows. And the last thing that's kind of neat to know, if you use 3 fingers to swipe back and forward on a Chromebook, you'll actually switch tabs. So if your number of tabs open in the browser and you just drag 3 fingers across, it will move from tab to tab to tab to tab. Really quick way of working. Some of the things you'll find on a Chromebook, you've got a thing called Files, which is the Chrome OS file manager. So if you're a Windows user, you probably use Windows Explorer. If you're a Mac user, you probably use Finder. In Chrome land, it's just called Files, and it's where you manage all your files. And you can both browse your local files that are stored on your hard drive and also browse your Google Drive files as well from there. One of the things in the Chrome OS file manager, a lot of people don't realize that if you just highlight a file in there and tap the space bar, it will bring up a preview mode and you can look at a file without actually opening it. Mac does the same kind of thing, but we do it too. It works exactly the same way. The other thing a lot of people don't realize about a Chromebook is if you have other file systems, so let's say at your school you still have a Windows file server somewhere, or you use Dropbox, or you use some other filing system, you can actually get your Chromebook to mount those other filing systems. So, from your Chromebook, you can go and browse the Windows server if you want to. So all of that's built in. Sorry, Steve, were you going to say something? No? Okay.
No, I'm good, mate.
The other neat thing, I mentioned some of the more affordable Chromebooks have smaller screens. I think the one I'm working on here is like a 14-inch screen, so it's not too bad. But if you were used to having a bigger screen, you might just find a little bit cramped. So one of the things you can do is to go that full screen mode that I talked about. I'm just going to actually, I probably need to come out of here and share. Oh, I am sharing the whole thing. So the full screen thing I was talking about, if I press the full screen button, watch what happens. You see how all the toolbars at the top and bottom of the page went away, and now I just have more room. If I press that again, they come back. Okay. The other thing I want to show you, if I just take my 3 fingers and drag upwards, right, which is the equivalent of pressing that button in the top row that I showed you, right? But if I drag upwards and I go into that expose windows mode, one of the things across the top here is called virtual desks. Now, you can create as many virtual desks as you like. And I might just to make the point here, I'm just going to drag my calendar here. All right. So I've got 2 windows open on the first desktop. But let's say I just need to check my calendar occasionally. I can take that and drag it up there and drop it on the 3rd desktop. And so now I can actually switch between desktops. And you can have up to 8 desktops. So if you're working on multiple things at once, you can just create a whole bunch of virtual desktops, drop the applications onto each desktop that you're using, and then switch from one to the other. The keyboard shortcut for switching desktops is the search key and the square brackets. Left or right will move you left. Oops, sorry, no left on that one. Or back that way. And so you can actually have a lot of virtual space to work on, even though the screen might be relatively small. What else we got here, Steve? Jump in if you need to, right?
You're doing so well.
Oh, thanks. Down the bottom of the Chromebook, you've got that strip along the bottom. It's called the shelf. That's its official name. And that's where all the apps can be stored along the bottom. When you open a tool in a Chromebook, you'll see it appear on the bottom of the shelf here. And what you can do is if you right-click or 2-finger tap on one of those icons, you have the option to pin it. This one says unpin at the moment because that's already pinned, but you can pin and unpin, in other words, attach those icons to the tray. So things you use relatively often, just right-click on them and pin them to the tray, and then they'll always be there. You don't have to go hunting for them. A little bit exactly how it works in sort of Windows or Mac land. Now, taking screenshots. I've used Windows, I've used Mac, I've used all sorts of operating systems, and I really think that Chrome OS does the best job of taking screenshots. It's such a beautifully simple system. But of course, it means remembering a keyboard shortcut. So the keyboard shortcut, if you want to do the whole screen, is Control and that button in the top row, right? And I don't know how to describe it. It's called the Windows button, right? The window button. And then if you just want to capture a specific window on your screen, it's Control Alt and that button. And if you want a specific region of your screen, you go Control Shift and that button, and then click and drag to show which part of the screen you want. So now I don't know how this is going to translate. Let's try it. I'm going to go Control Shift and that button. And
look at that. It works. Nice.
It works, right? You get this overlay screen. And now you can see, that's a bit hard to see, but so if I put it somewhere where you can see it.
Depends what screen you're on.
I'm just going to grab my cursor and drag across there like that. So I've selected that region. Now, when I let it go, see there's a little button in the middle that says Capture. All I need to do now is press Enter, and it captures that region of the screen, but it also copies it to the clipboard. So now all I want to do if I want to put that somewhere is just go there and say Control V and paste it, and there it is. So to capture something and then use something is literally 2 keyboard shortcuts. And it just doesn't get any faster than it. As well as putting on your clipboard, it also puts it in 2 other places. One of the places it puts it is it stores it in your, well, wherever you've told it to store it, normally the downloads folder. But the other thing, there's this neat little, I'm just going to get rid of this for a second, right? There's this neat little thing that's relatively new to Chromebooks. This is called the tote, right? You can see its name's popped up there. When you copy and paste, when you screen capture something, it automatically goes to the tote. And the tote is this little area where it keeps your screen captures. So if I want to use that screen capture somewhere, all I need to do is drag it out of the tote, and there it is. So the idea of the tote is, you know, if you do a whole bunch of screen captures and they'll all be sitting there in the tote, you can go back in time and grab something that you did like 3 screen captures ago and just drag it out. You don't have to go, oh, copy and paste it, but now it's not the thing on the clipboard. So nice, simple way to do that. The other thing about taking screenshots is you can also record your screen. Now, I don't know how well this is going to translate. Let's try it. If I do this, oh yeah, this will work.
Yeah. We can see that thing pop up down the bottom, so we're good.
Yeah, you can see it. I was wondering whether you'd be able to. Oh, there's my mouse. I lost it. There it is. So you can see down here, I've got a little switch between a camera and a video camera. So if I want to screen record, and I know a lot of people love Screencastify for doing this. I love Screencastify as well. But sometimes if you just want a really simple snap of a short video, you can just flick this little switch over to the video mode, choose whether you want full screen, just a specific area, or a specific window, right? Let's do the whole screen, right? And also, if you want to record your voice while you do this, go to the gear wheel and just make sure the microphone is set to on, because it's off by default. Okay, so just turn your microphone on. Now when I do this, it says click anywhere to record. It'll go 3, 2, 1. And now we're recording my screen, and I can do whatever I want. I can let's click on that and move that around. And, I'm not really doing much interesting. And then when you're done, you go down to the tray and you hit the stop button. And there is the screen recording just done right there. If I open it up, you can see there it is in the Files Manager. And if I click on it to open, I don't know where that audio is going. I can't hear it, and maybe it's just turned down too low. But
yeah.
But there's the video going. So that was just the little screen recording that I just did. So you can then take that and upload it to YouTube, or put it in your drive, whatever you want to do with it, right? So it's a nice, simple, easy screen recorder. Even though you've got other tools like Screencastify, this is a nice one as well. I mentioned keyboard shortcuts before. There's a ton of keyboard shortcuts. There are too many to tell you about. So the easiest way is just remember one keyboard shortcut: Control, Alt, Slash, right? And if you can't remember the slash, just remember, usually you're looking for help, it's the question mark key, right? So if you go Control, Alt, question mark, this thing pops up, and this is all your keyboard shortcuts on the Chromebook. So let's say I can't remember how to copy, right? So you type in the word copy, there you go, it's Control C. So you just do a little search for what you want at the top, and that's how you can find almost any keyboard shortcut just from one. It's the one ring to rule them all.
And that works across multiple different apps, isn't it, Chris?
So okay, that's a good point, Steve. So when I go Control Alt slash, I get the keyboard shortcuts for the Chromebook, right? Now, if I leave the Alt key out of that, if I just go Control slash, I actually get the keyboard shortcuts for slides, because I'm in slides, right? If I was in Docs and I did Shift slash, I'd get the keyboard shortcuts for Docs and all the other apps as well. But if you want it for the Chromebook, it's Control Alt slash.
Nice.
Okie dokie. Desktop wallpaper. There's some lovely desktop wallpapers on the Chromebook. I'm just going to minimize this for a second and just get rid of that. So this is the desktop, and obviously if I right click that, you've got this ability to set the wallpaper, and you've got a whole bunch of beautiful wallpapers here to pick from. And it looks like we've got a new wallpaper picker, material design wallpaper picker.
Oh yeah, so that's the new materials idea that was released with the Pixel 6, where you can look at the idea of a material. So it kind of can be lots of different things. That's art, pictures, colors, feelings, all that sort of stuff. So,
and you can upload your own as well. So this also looks at your Google Drive. So for example, if you you can put your own backgrounds in as well. So all right, let's go back to where we were. So desktop wallpaper, every kid loves to change their desktop wallpaper, right? So let's go back to our slides. The app launcher, I mentioned that search button before. Let's just kick out of here again. I'll just show you that. So if I press that search button, this little overlay pops up, and now I can search for anything. So let's say I've got something on my drive, a particular app that I want to use, like Gmail, GM. Oh, there it is there, right? I only did type GM, right? Or let's say I want to search for, I've got a document here called Learning with Google, okay? And there it is, just found it. I just type the first few letters and it finds it. And it's really quick. It's a really quick search. And of course, if I want to search for something on the internet, like Steve Smith, Australian cricketer, right? Yeah, now I've searched the internet. So that search button there, when it brings up this search box, it'll search either my computer or my files or the internet, all from one place. It's such a time saver once you realize that, because you don't have to then open Chrome and go to the Google homepage and you do it there. You just like one button click and you're right in. So that's pretty neat. And if you click the little upward key here, this is where any apps you've got installed on your machine will show on this screen. Now, I will tell you this is going to change shortly. There's an update to this coming in. I think it's Chrome 100, which is about to be relaunched. We're currently on Chrome 99. And what it will do is it will put instead of that whole bar coming up, it'll actually pop up a box on the side here, much the same as if you've used Windows or Mac or that kind of stuff before, where you get that sort of Remember Windows 95, the start menu, right? It's very much like that, actually, where it just pops it up on the side there rather than taking over your whole screen. I've enabled it on a couple of my machines. I really like it, and I think you guys will as well. So that's something to think about. Steve, I'm doing a lot of talking here. Jump in. Why don't you take this one?
Yeah, you could. Hey, look, yeah, why not? So the Chrome Web Store is where you find all the, so if you want to change the theme of your Chromebook, if you want to put some different apps in there, games is listed there as well. And there's a lot of work being done around gaming on Chromebooks. If you're into gaming on Chromebooks, have a little research around Steam on Chromebooks. So the Chrome Web Store is where you can choose a whole lot of extensions and themes. And obviously, if you are managing your school Chromebooks, you can choose to push out different extensions and apps from the web store as well. So things like, one of my favorite is the stop motion animator. So you could use stop motion animator, choose that. It'll be sitting on your machine. And also you can push that out to all the devices you're managing at your school as well. So Chrome Web Store is where you go to find all those extra things that give you the lots of things that you like to use to do lots of different jobs. And on the next slide, Chris is going to go.
I'm just switching back to something that's less copyright infringing, Steve.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
There we go.
What I was just going to say, like, how would we find the web store? So if you're on your Chromebook and you're looking at the screen here, like, how do I get to the web store?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you can either go up the top to your extensions.
No. How do you really do it?
Oh, do you want to go to the anything key? It's going to be on search.
Press the search button. Press the anywhere key. Brings up.
Yeah, there you go. Pop it up.
WEB finds it straight away. There's the web store.
Straight on there. So that everything button really does do everything.
Really does do everything, right? And this is where you find things. So you want to search in the store. So if you want to, I don't know, you want a timer, type in the word timer. It'll find all the timer extensions and whatnot. So great place to search for stuff.
When they come up, they're also split into kind of the extensions, they're into themes and they're add-ons. So you can go right through that and see what you're looking for as well.
Now, just a word on apps. So there's a number of ways Google has approached building apps in the past. And when I say apps, it's not the same as if you install, I don't know, Adobe Creative Cloud or Microsoft Word or something on your computer, where you're literally installing a piece of software onto your hard drive. That's not how we really think about this. So an app in most times in Google language is something that's still on the web, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're making a slight change to the way we think about this. We've built these apps. They were called Chrome apps for a lot of years, and they were designed to work within Chrome, and they leveraged a lot of the Chrome technologies. We're shifting to a new system called PWAs, Progressive Web Apps, and I just want to give you a little example of how that works. So I might go in here and I search for, say, Drive, right? And it finds Google Drive here for me. So I'm going to open that up. Oh, actually, this is, hang on a second. That's not quite the way I wanted to do that.
You might want to do that.
Interesting. I'll tell you what, I'll use YouTube as an example.
Yeah.
YouTube is a much better example. Okay, so I've just gone to YouTube. It's in my browser, so I'm in Chrome. You can see it's a browser tab inside Chrome. I'm in youtube.com, right? But if you're eagle-eyed, you'll notice there's a tiny little icon right there that looks like a picture of a computer with an arrow pointing down on it, right? Wiggle my mouse around so you can see it, right? Yeah. When you see that little icon, what it's telling you is this particular web page also exists as what's called a progressive web app. And so when I click this, what it'll say is, do you want to install this app? And you think, what do you mean install this app? It's a web page, isn't it? Well, yeah, kind of. But if you hit this install button, what it does, watch what happens. It'll disappear as a tab and it'll open up in its own window. And this own window now doesn't have tabs across the top of it. It behaves like a normal, what you would normally think about if you come from a traditional computer like a Windows or a Mac, what you think about as an app. The other thing is if I minimize this now, it actually goes down. I'll bring my toolbar up because I've got it set to go away at the moment. I'll bring it up to stay. That YouTube app now stays there. Now, if I click that, it opens it up like a window. If I click it again, it goes away like a window. In other words, now that I've converted that tab into a progressive web app, it behaves exactly the same way as a normal sort of application that most people would be familiar with if they'd come from a Mac or a Windows computer before.
And I can see, Chris, that you're using, you've got Meet down there as well pinned, and I find that Meet as a PWA runs a lot better on my computer. It's a lot more lightweight, I find, than using it straight out of the browser. So, if you're having trouble with Meet at home, if you've got a bit of a dodgy connection, I find that if I use the Meet PWA, it runs a lot better.
Yeah. So if I click on Twitter here, you'll notice it'll open my Twitter, but it opens Twitter inside a window. Twitter's running as a progressive web app. If I open up this little application here, that's our cursive app, which we'll talk about a bit later on. Maybe it's running as an app. So I'm really finding myself moving away from this idea of having a million tabs open and all these things in tabs to now saying there's specific things that I want to use like that will behave as an app. So let them behave as an app. So keep your eye out for that little icon up in the top corner there, because I think try it. You might like it.
Nice.
So anyway, that's the Chrome Web Store, a bit about progressive web apps. And then we'll talk about the other part of this, which is the Play Store and the Android apps. So one of the neat things about Chromebooks is, especially the newer ones, if you've got really old Chromebooks, they might not do this. But most of the ones in the last couple of years, they can run Android apps. Now, if you have an Android phone, you probably know there are literally millions of applications in the Play Store that do all sorts of interesting things, and you can run all of those on your Chromebook. Now, I'm not recommending you do that. There's a lot of things I wouldn't run necessarily, right? But there's some really good stuff in there, and you have the option. So one of the most popular ones in the education space is Minecraft, because Minecraft doesn't run in the browser. I had a conversation with some people yesterday. We were looking at which Android apps they should install, and they went, "What about Wii Video?" And I go, "Well, you can do that in the browser." "What about Creative Cloud?" "Well, you can do that in the browser." Like most things now will run in the browser, but occasionally you'll find something there is no browser-based version of it, but there is an Android version. Minecraft's a great example. So you can actually run Minecraft on your Chromebook now as an Android app. So that's one of the sort of the main use cases in education. But there's a ton of them. If you've got any really nice app, the Netflix app, for example, or whatever, you can run all of those as a first-class citizen Android app on the Chromebook.
And often I find, Chris, if I'm installing something on my phone, which I obviously have my account on my Chromebook as well, it will ask me if I want to install it on there as well. So, and when you're installing those apps, it tells you all the places you can install it as well.
Exactly. Now you don't want this to become a free-for-all with kids just installing a million things on their Chromebooks. So the way the Play Store works in a managed environment, so in a school, the administrator actually needs to pre-approve the apps for the domain. In other words, a student just can't go, "Oh, I want this and that and that and that." They just install a million things. They can only select from the things that an administrator has agreed is approved. So when a student goes to the Play Store, they'll only see the apps that the admin's allowed, right? And so you've got quite a lot of control over this. It's very much the opposite of the web store, where it is a bit of a free-for-all because there's nothing in there that can really hurt you, right? But in the Play Store, very much approval only.
Nice.
And then there's a bunch of built-in. I thought I'd change that picture.
No, you've still got this great picture. I think you've done the next one. So I think your camera picture's so good. We just got to keep using it.
I thought I'd change that picture. There you go. I did not. There are a bunch of apps that are built into the Chromebook as well. So some just utility style things. There's a camera in there. There's a gallery for looking at your images. By way of explanation, again, if I just press the everything key and bring that up and I type the word cam, right, there's the camera. If I open it up, there's the camera, and it will fire up in a second. And hello, that's the camera. And you'll notice that you used to be able to take photos and videos in here on the camera. If you haven't looked at it for a while, it's had a little update. So you can do photos and videos. You can also now take square photos. So, if you want to put something on your Insta, you can do a square photo right here. And the other neat thing is there's a scan button here now. That will open up a little scan button, and you can scan either a document or a QR code. So if you want to give students a QR code, I don't know, you're doing a treasure hunt or something in the classroom and they've got to follow a QR code, you can just hit this QR code button and they hold up the piece of paper with the QR code there. It'll scan it and go straight to whatever the resource is, assuming it's a web-based thing. And if you go to document, And I didn't bring one with me, unfortunately, but if I was to hold up a book or a page or an A4 page or something in front of that camera, it would actually highlight it, identify it as an image or as a document, and then when you hit the scan button, it converts it to a PDF for you. So that's all built in there now.
And also, when we're talking about PDFs, Chris, if you open a PDF, if you save a PDF to your Chromebook and open it up, you can now write on PDFs inside your Chromebook. So if you save it to your files, so you scan it, save it to your files, and then open it from files, you can write on that PDF and then save it with the annotations on top as well. So nice little built-in feature with PDFs on a Chromebook as well.
Yep. I know what happened, Steve. I duplicated that slide, and there's the actual slide I meant.
There you go.
There you go. I knew I did it. I wasn't going crazy. It's built-in apps. You got the camera app, and it does the QR codes. Yeah, there's a built-in calculator. So if your kids need a calculator, hit the search bar, go calc. Right, there's a calculator built in right there, and I think you can go up here and where is it? It's the green bit. So if you just hit the sides there, so there's a regular calculator, a scientific calculator, and an even more scientific calculator. Whatever that is.
Yeah, for the things you don't understand apart from math teachers.
Exactly. And look, I don't want to overlook this idea of accessibility. I did a talk for some people this morning about accessibility. The importance of being able to design a system that caters for kids with all sorts of needs. So whether it simply be, they need that they want to be able to highlight a piece of text and have it read to them, or whether they want to be able to dictate into their computer and have their voice turned into text, whether they need to be able to zoom in on something because I wear glasses. If I didn't have glasses, I couldn't see a thing, right? So being able to make things bigger on your screen. Can I do it here? Right. But auto clicking for really young students who perhaps have trouble clicking the trackpad, you can actually set it up so as soon as they move over on something, they don't even have to click; it just automatically clicks for them. You've probably noticed that when my cursor moves around, it's got a little red ring around it, and when I stop moving it, it goes away. That's one of the cursor modifications that you can do in the accessibility setting. It's called highlight mouse cursor, right? And I use that all the time. I just find sometimes I lose the cursor. So it helps me, and it's not designed specifically for me, but it's a great feature. So lots of great accessibility stuff that's built right into the Chromebook. You don't have to, there's no extra things you need to buy or anything to do it. Let's just talk for a minute about switching to Chrome apps. One of the biggest objections I hear from schools that are, they've got Windows machines or they got Macs or something, and they're contemplating the idea of using Chromebooks. I have a touch screen. How do I turn the touch screen off? Don't touch it, Craig. I don't know. I don't know. You can turn a touch screen off.
That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever thought of that, Craig. That's a great question. Can you turn it off? I don't know. I'll have a look and see if I can find
I'll
out.
have a look while I carry on, and we'll see if we can get to that for you.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, while you're there, Julie did ask about reversing cameras so you can take a photo of something other than yourself. So down the bottom left-hand side, if you just open that camera app for us again, Chris, just show us the switch camera on it. So if you have multiple cameras,
this computer I'm on doesn't have a second camera, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Computers that are being sold into classrooms now have what's called a webcam and a world-facing camera.
Yeah.
And if it has two cameras on it, then you can switch between the two cameras. I don't have a second camera on this particular machine, so I don't have a switch to switch cameras. Gotcha.
Yeah, but you'll find that. So the bottom left-hand side, there's kind of it looks like two arrows in a circle, and you can click that and we'll choose a different camera. So if you have different cameras switched in, you can use that as well.
Yeah, I will say the cameras on Chromebooks have gotten a lot better. I still don't think they're as good as I'd like them to be, but I'm spoiled. I've got a Pixel phone, so it takes beautiful photos, but they're a lot better than they were. And I think you can take a pretty decent photo on a Chromebook these days if you have enough light. That's the kicker. When you're switching to a Chromebook, and just a couple of thoughts on this, if you're coming from Windows or Mac and you're thinking about coming to Chromebook, one of the first questions will be like, well, hang on, I used to use this app and there's nothing like that on the Chromebook, or I can't install Microsoft Office on the Chromebook, or I need Photoshop, or those kind of things that people say. So just a couple of thoughts about that. And that is, I just want to step back a second and go, what are we doing here? Are we teaching kids to use Microsoft Word, or are we teaching kids to write? Are we teaching kids to make graphics, or are we teaching kids to use Photoshop, right? Because they're two different problems. And I think if you come back to the stage and say, well, the thing we're really trying to do in education is teach kids to create, present, and persuade, and describe, and evaluate, those sorts of things. Those verbs that we ask kids to do, I've been teaching for 30 years, and those verbs haven't changed much in 30 years. But tools that I used 30 years ago don't exist anymore, right? So the technologies change all the time, but the underlying verbs that I want my students to do are pretty timeless. So what I suggest to people sort of getting a bit hung up on, oh, I can't use Word or whatever, is like, what are you actually doing? Are you teaching kids to word process, right, or write? Then, like, if you used to use Word, try Docs. If you used to use Sheets, try Excel, try Sheets. Use PowerPoint, try Slides, like, because they're functionally equivalent, right? But then you get into sort of murkier territory. Like I like Outlook. There's no Outlook on Chromebook. Well, actually there is, but like, try Gmail, right? Desktop publishing is an interesting one. If you've used InDesign or Publisher or something, I have teachers say to me, oh, but I need Publisher. No, you don't. You need your kids to be able to publish, but you don't need Publisher. You just need a way to publish. So there's lots of ways to do that. You can do it in Google Slides. Lucid Press, if you really want to get fancy with your publishing. Like, there's tons of tools. The number of teachers have told me that they have to have the Adobe suite. I like the Adobe suite, right? But most of the time what I see being done with the Adobe suite can be easily done in Canva or Creative Cloud Express or something else. Like, if the goal is to produce, I don't know, a poster that persuades an audience, the tool's not that important. So I think there's a lot of solutions to these problems that people see as problems. Down the bottom there, you see there's a little link I put in there, bit.ly/switch to Chromebook. I don't know, maybe Steve, you can drop that in the chat. We've just assembled a list of all these different sort of functional areas and the typical sort of non-Chromebook tools that people would be used to, and then some alternatives you can try on a Chromebook. And there really is, like, I think the end result of, you know, all of these things I'm showing you here is, you know, to get down to this end conclusion there, that like these days, almost every class of software is either it's 100% web-based or it has a web-based alternative. There's almost nothing that doesn't fit that now. There are a few things, but not many, right? So that means, like, really almost everything you need to do, you can do on a Chromebook. So you start to take all the other advantages of a Chromebook into account, the fact that they're more affordable, the fact that they're more secure, the fact that they're, you know, easier to manage. And you kind of go, I might be trading off because there's like this one program that I can't use anymore, but I found a decent alternative to it, and I get all the advantages of Chrome, and, you know, I just have to give up one little thing, you know, or modify one little thing. I think it's a real mind shift that people need to make. Steve, did you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure. So so there's a couple of different ways to manage those apps. So we've talked about apps and extensions and all those great things you can get on Chromebooks. So there are a bunch of different ways you can manage them. And when you are managing a Chromebook, so using a Chrome Education Upgrade license, you can do things like you can force them all out to the enrolled Chromebook, so everyone gets them. So if you're using something like Text Help or Stop Motion Animator, force them all out, everyone has them. You can also block different Chrome web apps that you don't want, and you can choose a list that you do want to push out as well. With the Android apps and also Linux apps, because you can get Linux apps on some Chromebooks as well, you can enable, and you can, what you've got there is manage the Chrome store. So you can have an allow list that students can choose from if you don't want them to go out of the show. And then the right-hand side there, we have something called kiosk apps. So kiosk apps is where you launch your Chromebook in the kiosk mode, and it means you can only go to that place. So if you're doing online testing, for instance, you set up kiosk mode and you say the one place that Chromebook can go to. So it might be the online test, and if you have a helper bot installed as well, you can go there, and that's all you can do. So those are 3 different ways you can manage those different types of apps using your Chrome admin. Now, obviously, a lot of you may not have access to the admin console, but it's good to know what you can do, so you can always ask your either managed service provider or your IT person at school about that.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. The good folk at Gundagai PNC have just put a question in here about, it's a very New South Wales Department of Education specific question, so I can come back to you and talk to you about this afterwards if you like. But yes, the department has just put in a system where schools can manage their own deployment of apps internally. It's called Delegated Admin Access. I'm working with the department at the moment to try and put together a package for schools to help them understand how that works and what they can do. So hang tight on that one. We should have something for you in the near future.
Awesome.
So just to come back to those questions, those sort of, myths or, misunderstandings or whatever that we started with, like, I hope we've addressed a lot of these here. I think we've addressed most of those. A lot of the answers to these questions are, yes, you can do a lot of these things. And no, the world won't fall apart if, you move to a Chromebook. In fact, it's probably likely to get a whole lot easier.
There's a good question there, Chris. Can I print from a Chromebook?
Absolutely you can. In fact,
so there's a number of different ways you can do that. If you're like me and you're a bit old school, you can plug in your USB and just print straight to your printer if you want. Or, I know Chris is like, well, what are you talking about? Or you can either use, you can print with, if you're at home, obviously, you can print within your network. At school, there are also different ways you can add, and you can print from your Chromebook. Great one that's used in lots of schools is a lab called PaperCut, which allows you to connect to basically cloud-enabled printing inside your school. So again, have a chat to your school about what they've already got set up. Some even photocopier companies will set up a little link between your Chromebooks if you need to print. It's always a great question.
I have to admit, Steve, I've been spoiled over the years with how easy printing is on a Mac. And I bought a little printer from home just at the start of the pandemic. It was a little laser printer. And when I bought it, I made sure I bought it, it said on the box that it was a network-capable printer. I brought it home, plugged it in, set it up. It automatically detected itself on the network. Then I opened my Chromebook and I thought, okay, how do I do this? And I just looked at, the printer's already there. Like I literally didn't do anything. It just appeared in the print list. So it's actually, I found it actually easier than the Mac, which surprised me. So
it's amazing.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. We're going to whiz through a couple of new features that are coming to Docs, and they are, I think, pretty exciting. Form summary links, smart email templates in Docs, and Steve's going to tell you about a thing called practice sets, because he knows more about that than me, but it looks really exciting. This practice sets came out today, this morning. It was announced. So first thing is forms summary links. Some of you know that if you create a Google form and you allow people to fill it in, when people fill it in, the results go into that summary page, right? And it will draw these nice little graphs for you and sort of, draw bar graphs or pie graphs, depending on the type of question you asked. What you'll be able to do now is to actually link those to an external document, so slides or docs or drawings. And I've got a little sample here for you. So we're going to try this together, if you guys will humor me. So what I've done, I've got a Google form right here on this link. So if you can either scan the QR code with your phone or perhaps just type in that into your browser, bit.ly/gformlinks, and you'll get a very simple one-question form there, which simply says, what's your favorite Google color? Blue, red, yellow, or green, right? There are no right or wrong answers on this. So what I'll get you to do is to vote on that. And what I've done, let me just go over here and show you what I've done with this. If I can find it, there you go. So this is the Google form that I made, right? And most of you, if I go to edit mode on this, most of you know that I've got, here's your question, right? And you go over here to responses, and it's drawn this lovely little graph for me here, right, of all your responses that you've just put in. And thank you for doing that. Now, when you hit this copy button, it used to be that it would copy that graph as a graphic, and then you could go to somewhere else and paste it in, and it would paste it in as an image. Now look what happens if I go here. Actually, just get rid of that one. I'm going to paste a new one in, right? If I go paste, it says, do you want to link this or just paste it in? I want to link it. So I turn that on and say paste. It pops it in like that, and you notice there are your results. So it's carrying your results across. Now, if you get a sec, go back and do another vote. Right, go and vote a second time, because what will happen every time that someone updates that data, this update button appears. And when I click the update button, it'll go and grab the latest bit of data and update the chart. So if you're doing a survey or something and you're presenting the results to the principal or the parents committee or whatever it might be, you can have that form still live collecting data while you've actually got the slide deck, presenting the results. And if more data comes in, you can update it on the fly. I think that's a fantastic new feature. I'm really excited about that one. I can think of a million uses for that. Thanks for everyone for playing along with that. If I just go in there, no more things. Okay, Steve, you want to talk about draft email templates?
Yeah, sure. Let's just. What I'll do is I'll jump in and I will share my screen. So I'll
awesome. So
I'll boot you off.
Sharing mine. There you go.
Oh, actually, I'm going to come back to a question that Julie had earlier. So where's there we go. I just found this little thing about so there is a mirror screen on some Chromebooks as well. So you might find that is what you're talking about, Julie, with the mirroring your screen. So it actually flips it from left to right. So there's a couple of different things you can do there. And it may just be the model of Chromebook you have. So that hopefully that will help to answer that little question there. So we've talked a little bit about Chrome, about smart chips inside Chrome, and the fact that a lot of our apps are being built a little bit differently now. And this basically works by just typing that @ key. So if I go @ what it's going to do is it's going to bring up a menu for me. And what was just released today is the email draft. Now, Chris took us through this a little while ago at pre-release, but now it's rolling out. So it's on the updates blog. So if I go...
I think when pre-release, Steve, means when I didn't know I wasn't supposed to talk about it.
Yes, that's exactly right. So if I want to type an email to Betcha, I'm going to put his name in there. And if he is in my address book, it'll pop in. But basically what I can do is I can write myself an email in here. I can draft it up inside Docs. I can then click on the little button there and it will send it over to Gmail to preview it. So you can make your email look nice. You can put all your stuff in there and then flick it over. So that's direct from Docs. So it's a nice little thing that has just dropped in publicly today. It is rolling out as lots of our features do. So it does take some time to roll out. So I won't spend too much time around that.
It's in the next 2 weeks.
You will indeed. You will indeed. And that's on the Workspace Updates blog. We'll give you a whole lot more information about that, obviously.
Yeah, and the link is in the bottom of the slides, which we will share with you, of course.
Yes,
the use case for that would be like if you want to collaborate on the wording of a draft for an email, you can actually put it in the doc, put that little drop template in there like Steve just showed you, invite people in, you all collaborate together on getting the wording just right, and then when you're ready, that one button click up the top there will actually send it straight to Gmail, so you can just send it.
It sure will. Yeah, exactly.
And the last thing Steve wants to show you is this thing called practice sets.
Yeah, so this is something that we kind of hinted about a couple of webinars ago about something really cool that was coming into Classroom. And it was just released this morning, about, I think, New Zealand time, about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning it was released. It's been sitting around for quite some time. If you remember back to an app called Socratic, which was a homework app where you could type things into it and it would give you a whole lot of suggestions. Socratic is fantastic. The idea was to build that functionality into Classroom. So what it will do, you can see down the bottom there's a little, I'm just going to go full screen here, and hopefully the video is not going to play. There is a little mock-up of what it looks like down the bottom here. So basically inside Classroom, you can give students...
Actually, we've got 4 minutes. The video only goes for 3. Why don't you show the video?
Okay, why don't I do that? So this was posted to YouTube this morning. I'm not breaking any secret thingamajiggy, so let's have a listen to this.
Learning is personal. Students stay more engaged and learn more effectively when they get feedback right away. But one-on-one help for each student isn't always possible with the learning tools that exist today. For educators, having a round-the-clock tutor for each student that could help them grade classwork and give insights into student comprehension would be ideal. That's why we're creating a new tool in Google Classroom called Practice Sets, which enables educators to create interactive assignments from their existing content or from scratch. Students can get help as they answer questions, and teachers can get automated insights to know where students are getting stuck. Let's take a look at how it works. Once teachers practice sets use content or by writing their own questions, our adaptive learning technology identifies the relevant learning skills for each question and finds relevant hints and resources that will be available for students if they need help. With all the typical question types like multiple choice and short answer, Practice sets also have a built-in math keyboard and use our adaptive learning technology to enable equivalent answers for robust auto-grading. Teachers assign practice sets in Google Classroom like any other assignment. Students open practice sets right from an assignment in Google Classroom. As they work, auto-grading lets them know right away if their solution is correct, which helps build confidence, keeps them engaged, and prevents one misunderstanding from impacting the entire set. If they don't get a question on the first try, built-in hints help them along. When a student is unsure of where to start, they can open a resources section, which provides recommended videos and concept cards for each learning skill. Additional features include designated space to show their work, allowing them to demonstrate understanding while giving their teacher visibility into their thinking. For assignments created with practice sets, you will have enhanced features in the Classroom Grader view. Teachers get a quick view of class performance and can see student work for every attempt they make per problem. Automated insights reveal class-wide trends, so teachers gain visibility and can adjust their teaching plan if many students struggle with the same question or concept. With practice sets, students get the help they need faster, and teachers get actionable insights about their class. We understand that no two learning journeys are the same, so we're building tools that work for you.
So there you go. It's pretty interesting. It'll be sitting right there in Google Classroom. It launched today, so you should see it appearing shortly, I would think, Steve. Or is
So
it
the beta it launched today, and if you go to that link down the bottom, you can sign up too. And it is a beta at the moment, so it is very much at the beginning of the experience. All the functionality is built in there. I've been having a play with it, and it's great. And there is more and more and more to come. So if you want to get involved with that beta, you want to have a good play with it. Also give feedback on how it's working as well. There is functionality sitting there already. Go down the bottom to that link, or just do a quick search for practice sets in Google Classroom, and there is a beta you can sign your school up for. The team will get in touch, bring you on board, work you through it, and also let you have a good play with it pre-launch. And it will launch completely later on this year. So the beta is launching this morning.
Excellent. I see Adam had a question there about restricting students who jump on Minecraft during maths or writing time. We might, at the end of the call, Adam, if you can hang around for a couple of minutes, we might jump onto that question there rather than sort of go into the weeds with it, because we're right on time. Steve, just go to the next slide if you don't mind. Just a reminder, thanks to everyone for coming along today. We are running this series of
Learning is personal.
I always do that. Come on, there we go.
This is the second of our webinars for the year. We've got one coming up every month for this year. It's the third Thursday of the month at 3:30 Australian time, and AEST, and 5:30 New Zealand time. And next month we're talking about student success and reporting for workspace and education. So we'll be digging into probably a whole bunch of feedback and assessment type stuff. So hopefully you can join us for some of that. And if you know anyone who isn't registered to attend these and would like to, feel free to pass the link on. We will always take the recording and the slide deck and we'll attach it to the calendar invite you were sent. So you'll be able to find everything right there in the calendar invitation. And then just finally, Steve, if you want to go back and look at any of our past webinars that we've done, we've been collecting these over the last couple of years, and it's quite a good selection there now. bit.ly/AUNZ_webinars is where you can find them all. And finally, if you would like a certificate for giving up 1 hour of your valuable time for being here today, there's a QR code and a short link there, bit.ly/GFE certificate. If you want to head over there, there's a form you can fill in. It will auto-generate a honour system certificate for you if you tell it you've been here for an hour, and it'll send it straight to you. Rightio. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your valuable time. If any of you are here from either South Australia, Victoria, or New South Wales Departments of Education, there's a couple of specific links in there. Some of the things we cover in these webinars are not always totally available for every education system. They tweak things. So, you know, if you want to talk to someone, those are the addresses you need to talk to.
Perfect.
See you next time. Thanks, Steve. You might as well stop the recording.
Thanks very much, folks.
We'll hang around for a few minutes if anyone wants to chat.
And Melinda has her hand up, so we should answer her question first because she's very polite and raised her hand.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adriana. Melinda.